Santa Evelina, Guatemala. Juana Garcia Gomez, 75, wept over two coffins placed side by side in the sports hall of the Santa Evelina School in the western highlands of Guatemala. Inside one lay the remains of her brother Juan, who had been abducted at age 50 more than 3 decades earlier. He had been found days after on the side of a rural highway, killed by a firearm. The second coffin bore the name of her mother, Maria, who, at 90, had demanded the release of her son from a nearby military detachment. Instead, the soldiers beat her. Her most serious injury was a broken femur. She died shortly after learning the fate of Juan, with gangrene in her leg. The two coffins were among 172 containing exhumed remains of people who had died as a result of a military strategy carried out by the government in the Maya Highlands during the bloodiest period of the country's civil war, which lasted from 1960 to 1996. The remains were recovered from the countryside in August 2014, and the forensic analysis has finally been completed. In November, the people of Santa Evelina, a small village near San Juan Cotzal, were preparing to inter their loved ones. They had been awaiting a dignified interment for more than 30 years. During the war, 70 to 90% of the villages in this area were destroyed, and 60% of the population was displaced, forced to flee and seek refuge in the neighboring mountains, according to a United Nations Truth Commission. The United Nations investigation estimated that around 7,000 of the Ixil, a Maya group, were killed. Before 1982, Santa Evelina didn't exist on the map. In its place, many small villages surrounded a land sown with sugar cane. The area was known as Cabno, the place of honey in Ixil, a Mayan language. As leftist guerrillas moved their organizing away from cities and into the Maya highlands in the late 1970s, the army identified the Ixil as a base of support for the rebels, even though the insurgents never established a strong presence in the countryside. The dictator General Romeo Lucas Garcia ordered the first military sweep into the highlands, in late 1981, attacking villages in a strategy designed to terrorize the civilian population and destroy any possible support for the guerrillas. The so-called scorched earth policy against the Ixil intensified under General Efrain Rios Montt, who took control of the government in March 1982. The army massacred entire villages, razing buildings and destroying livestock. General Rios Montt, who was convicted of genocide in 2013 for the Ixil massacres, described the slaughter as draining the sea the fish swim in. His genocide conviction was thrown out on a technicality 10 days after the trial, but a new trial is underway. At 91, he is too ill to attend. General Rios Montt also broadened the counterinsurgency policy to establish control over the survivors. He forced them into what were called model villages, requiring them to work for food and pressing them into civil defense patrols, paramilitary groups that were often ordered to support the military massacres. He was deposed in August 1983, and although the pace of the massacres slowed under his successor, General